Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course, the best medicine of them all. Reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course, discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Grew with Portia. I am your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with all things Grew with Portia. One of the things that I'm a firm believer in is that everything happens for a reason. And I've said that since I was a little girl, even though I never truly understood it until now. I believe that everything that happens to us is for our greatest good, and that our stories of adversity, of trauma, of challenges, each and every one of those experiences is to pave the way for someone else to give them the opportunity to share their own traumas and stories. Okay. So today, everybody, I have the honor of being joined by an amazing guest. Those of you who are parents who use disposable diapers may know this gentleman as the inventor of those. And also he sparked kind of the hygiene, if you want to call it, revolution. So those of us who are women that use sanitary napkins with wings, very grateful for those. He's not only just an inventor, he's also an amazing business leader, social advocate, and author. And today we're going to talk about his new book called Greater Than Gravity: How Childhood Trauma is Pulling Down Humanity. So without further delay, welcome to Grew with Portia, Mr. Michael J. Menard. Michael, how are you today?
I'm well, Portia. Thanks for that glowing introduction. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, Michael, as I always say, we have to give people their flowers while they're here, because people are here today and gone tomorrow. And you have definitely made an imprint in not just my life growing up, but so many other people who are coming into the world. So,
Thank you.
Michael, let's talk about your new book, Greater Than Gravity. You make a claim that childhood trauma is one of the leading causes of death in America. And I'm curious, Michael, based on the research and data that is in your book, I'm
Yes.
wondering, what did it take for you to realize and make that connection that we've been defining death in the wrong way? And what did it take for it to become the conversation of today, even though childhood trauma is no secret or no stranger to any of us?
Well, yeah, it's a heavy subject, of course. We all have, I think your opening was beautiful. I believe everything that's happened in my life is for a purpose, and we have the ability to turn pain into purpose if we have the right mindset. So I had a wild childhood. I'm one of 14 children, and I lost two brothers to heroin. I now know as a result of their childhood trauma. I thought it was failed. I thought it was just poor judgment. I thought we just had a tough life. But I decided to write my memoir, and I wrote that about 5 years ago, and I brought all this forward, and I had to face it. I had to face it to write that story, and I realized, well, I realized the pain, and I thought I was alone. But when I wrote this book, the first book, the world opened up to me and wanted help. And what I learned was we're not alone, and I thought, why are so many people? So I'm a researcher, I'm an engineer. So I stopped my corporate gig and I went kind of underwater for about 3 years and researched the subject. And I used the same epidemiology methodology that connected tobacco smoking or tobacco with lung cancer. It's a direct correlation, right? Before this connection was made, if you died of lung cancer, it would just say lung cancer. But now it says tobacco use. if you were a smoker. That's what you died from smoking. So I got a panel of experts and did this original work and used about 350 research reports and connected dots that had never been connected before. And everyone in this field has been kind of talking to themselves or talking in a silo. The medical doctors talk to patients, the mental health people talk to mental health, the research talk to themselves. And I put all this together and found that it affects childhood trauma affects 70% of everyone on earth. 50 million of our children, there's 78 million children in America. 50 million of those children will experience childhood trauma before their 18th birthday. It's an epidemic. And I found out what happens. What happens, take my brothers as an example. That childhood trauma started flows of stress hormones in their body that a child should not experience. We're made to have those things turn off as soon as the danger is gone. But if you live with the danger, those hormones flow and they destroy mitochondria in the cell, in the brain and in the body. And it starts to develop, the brain develops differently, and the pleasure centers develop differently. And we know that something's wrong in our minds, but we don't know what it is, and we seek comfort. Their comfort was heroin.
Mm,
Everybody has different drugs, right? That sex, shopping, lying, gambling. We all turn to those who are suffering, turn to things that make us feel better, but actually they make it all worse. So I connected these dots and found that it is now the number one cause of death in America. And that should wake the world up. 1,401 people die every day directly associated with childhood trauma. Some of it's murder, parents murdering children. Some of it is, in my family's case, neglect and abuse that grew into disorders and dysfunction that we just thought was life, but it wasn't life. God did not intend us to live that way. So I used this science and proved it for the first time, and now I'm on a mission to wake the world and to begin the process to go upstream and solve this problem, so that people stop dying. And it's worse than just dying. People are sick. They're sick. 44%
right.
of all depression in the United States is directly from childhood trauma. And so that's the bad news. The good news, the hope is that it doesn't have to be a life sentence. The way I think of it, Portia, is that imagine there's this river that we drink from, and upstream, way upstream, is a broken sewer pipe. And sewage and poop is flowing the river. We're drinking it, we're getting sick. Well, now people are starting to wake up to the fact that there's poop in the water, and they're trying to get the poop out of the water, but it's almost impossible. They're trying to tell people not to drink the poop, but there's only one river. What we have to do is go upstream and fix that sewer pipe. We have to stop the creation of foster children. We have a machine in this country that creates foster children and puts them into a system that destroys them. So 40% of them end up in prison before they're 25 years old. The girl,
Mm,
prostitution. The boys turn to crime. They turn to addiction. And only 3% of every foster child that ages out of the system, only 3% go to college. Only 20% get meaningful jobs. That's just the tip of the iceberg, foster children.
right. Right.
What about all the children? What about the children in single family home, single parent homes, teenage homes? They don't have a chance. They don't have a chance. So it's a wicked problem. A wicked problem is one that's described as almost impossible to solve, but I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to use what time I have left. I wrote this book, Greater Than Gravity. It's having an awesome reception in the clinical world and in the world of people that are hurting. And it's a wake-up call. And in the back of the book, it says, here's our solution. Let's all rally around that solution. So, I founded an organization called UACT, UACT. United Against Childhood Trauma. You can go there. It's youactnow.com, and it tells about the power of healing. It tells about how to get on the road of healing. It lets you take a test to you can assess, your childhood, and something that you might have thought something wasn't right. Well, it probably wasn't right, and you cannot escape it. You think
Mm-mm.
you might be over your childhood. Well, your childhood may not be through with you. And so I don't want to make it as if it's every problem in the universe, but I know it's a huge problem based on this research. So
Oh, 100%.
I'm talking too
100%.
much. I'll let you ask the next question.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Michael, you've you've shined a light on several big key issues. Number one, I mean, the foster care system, we know that there's a lot with that, right? That's a whole prison pipeline in a nutshell.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's not getting better.
Right. Then also children growing up in single parent households, children growing up in difficult environments where you have to dodge bullets to go to school, where you're growing up hearing, watching
It's horrible. Yeah.
drug deals go on, from a young age,
Yep.
right? Prostitution in the households, right? Young kids being raised by great grandparents because their parents may have other, issues that they haven't resolved. They're in and out of prison. So there's a multitude of things here that
Yeah.
obviously can contribute to this continuation of childhood trauma. And I'm curious, Michael, because from our society standpoint, you're very successful, right? And there comes a level of people don't see the struggle that you've gone through growing up in a household being the second of 14 siblings, growing up in different, unstable situations in your household, your brothers, you know,
Yeah.
succumbing to heroin addiction, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious because you're an inventor, Michael, by
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah.
Can you share with our audience when did you wake up and realize, I can invent, no pun intended,
Yeah.
a new avenue for people to start having discussions about the impact of childhood trauma?
Yeah. It's a great question. So I have a couple of beliefs that cannot be proven yet scientifically, but one of my beliefs is that we are born with varying degrees of resilience. Some have it, some don't. I see it amongst my 14. We're very different. We all have different gifts and different capabilities. Um, I don't think I am any different, any smarter than the average person on the street. I think my discovery of invention was born out of need and necessity to create. So I realized at a very young age that most children don't have this realization that it was up to me, that if I was going to eat, I had to find food. It, I had to take care of my brothers and sisters. I, at a very young age, told my father, if you touch me again, I will break your head open in the middle of the night with a ball bat. Never touch me again. And he didn't, but I should have said it for all my siblings. So I was born with some grit and the need to create. And it childhood trauma can create post-traumatic growth in some of us. Not everybody, but that happened with me. Is that I used it as rocket fuel for success, and it had its own disorder. I had to stay busy. I invented Portia, because I actually wanted people to say, I wanted to say, look at me, look at me. We all want to be seen. And as a
Mm-hmm.
child, I felt invisible. So I realized that if I discovered things and solved problems, that people would look at me. And it took me, I'm now 75. When I was 70, I figured this out. And 70, I realized what I had been chasing. I realized that my obesity then, I understood it. I understood it. I didn't want to be hungry. So something happens where we overeat. And children, when they experience, there's a high degree of obesity amongst suffering children. Children who are abused and are suffering do not crave kale. They crave French fries, Snickerballs,
Sweets.
sweets, because it is its own high. So it's an addiction, and we begin it in that age, and it carries into adulthood, and we don't realize why we overeat. So when I figured it out, Portia, um, I I just naturally over about 18 months dropped 75 pounds of weight. Not a diet, just realizing, oh my God, why do I crave what I crave? Why do I still order that 16-inch pizza when all I need is a 10-inch pizza? So it's a learning. And I'm really, successful, smart guy, but we're all suffering in some ways if we don't understand what it was. So my message is that if something isn't right in your life, you might want to go back and think of what happened to you, not what's wrong with you, what happened to you. And it's all things you can deal with, and there's a process for that. And it doesn't always require therapy. My goal is to turn churches in the state of Tennessee. There's 11,000 churches. In America, there's 350,000 churches. They know nothing about healing of childhood trauma. If you go to a person, do you go to a pastor, the pastor is going to say, I'm going to pray for you. Do you have enough faith? And you get re-traumatized and shamed because you
Mm-hmm.
feel God doesn't have the mercy to, well, I've learned now, and it's in my Greater Than Gravity book, is that neurological wounds from childhood block the gospel. They will block, you can't hear it. You can't hear it. So God's got the saving grace. Asking you shall receive. The power of the Lord was present to heal, but we got to help ourselves too. God gave us healers. And so my goal is to turn churches into the first aid of healing. So the therapists are not the counselors in church need to be trained on recovery from childhood trauma. And it's not difficult. Now, if it's really severe, you might need therapy. You might need it. You might need other interventions, but mostly it can be solved with an understanding and love and help people understand and get on the road and be whole again because it keeps us fractured. It makes us horrible parents. It makes us horrible friends. We've lost this love thy neighbor. We've just lost it. And we need to build back our community of love and support. And I think it's possible. I think it's possible.
100%,
Hoping,
Michael.
hoping, hoping it's reaching, some listeners today, some viewers today that are saying amen and join this fight, join this movement with you act. My goal is in a couple of years there'll be Childhood Trauma Awareness Day, and everyone will wear their ACEs score on a shirt. An ACE score, do you know what it is, Portia?
Mm-hmm.
It's number of childhood. So 1 to 10, how bad were you? So my number's 6. And if you see some jerk, your neighbor who you never got along with, and he's wearing his shirt that day and it's a 9, just maybe you understand him a little bit more. We'll look at everyone different. Look at everyone different. Look at with compassion. And I think it's possible. And it sounds maybe unrealistic, but I want to turn it into practice, and I'm just getting started.
Well, and I think, Michael, you've really shined a light on this silent epidemic that's been around for as long as humans have been in existence, right?
Yes.
And our establishments have been designed by a certain system to only look at the face value of things and not go too much into depth of the backstory of the person's why they're this way, right?
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
your initiative, your movement is really sparking that new age conversation, right?
Yeah. I
Because
hope.
look at the world now where there's become more openness around grief and loss and death and dying.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think your
Yes.
book is a part of that new movement to help more people to actually take their healing by the reins and not continue to be afraid of it. Michael, we are going to be wrapping up here soon, and we're probably going to have to do a part two with you once this book either
Anytime,
becomes a
anytime.
movie or something. Michael,
Yes,
for our audience who's tuning in, obviously, if they want to get a copy of the book, if they want to connect with you, maybe
yes,
book you for a talk, how can they connect
sure.
with you, Michael?
Yes, the best way is just remember my name. It's Michael J. Menard, middle initial J. MICHAELJMENARD.com. That's my author website. You can buy a book. You can buy the book there. You can reach out to me through talk to Mike. I respond to every request. I'll take every possible call. There'll be a time where I can't do that, but right now, talk to me. Tell me, give me some ideas. Tell me I'm on the right track. Tell me I'm crazy. Portia, let me just ask you a question. You've been
Sure.
for a long time. Does it sound real when I say it? When I say how bad it is, when I say it's 70%, when I say 1,400 people are dying every day, does it sound believable?
100%. When you look outside,
Yeah.
for example, I'll just use this as an example. Me and my boyfriend, we go to a lot of concerts. We're big music people.
Yeah,
You
awesome.
can, I mean, we met at a concert. We met at the Disturbed concert. That should tell you how twisted we are, but that's a whole nother story. And the other night we were at a show. We went to see Finger 11. Those of you who remember Finger 11,
Yes,
also
yes, sure.
Filter
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Local H.
Yep.
Well, there was a issue at the front of the venue where we were, where there was a woman who clearly had a little bit too many to drink. And literally, she was in so many different confrontations with people till it even got to me, where a gentleman was
Oh,
pushed on to me. And I said, hey, you're fine. And she's getting in my face, telling me you shouldn't get involved in all this stuff. So I flagged security down and they came and got her out of the pit. But I thought about that all night, Michael, when I laid down. I said, what is going on internally? And I prayed for her. I said, I don't know what's going on, but clearly I can see
yeah,
just from your actions where music is about community, music is about connection,
yeah.
music is the language all of us understand.
Yes.
And you're disconnected, clearly.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a great example. And you know what? We can quickly judge her and dismiss her, but there's something behind there. You got to get to the thing behind the thing.
Yeah.
And she's not happy. She is suffering, and there's a reason why. And it's not just to get high.
No, it's clearly there's something very deep rooted. And I mean, other people could see it. I'm glad that there wasn't any type of other physical altercation, that the, staff were
It
able to
happens. It
escort
happens.
her
Yeah,
out. But
it
it
happens.
was,
Yeah.
and you're right, it does. And I just felt so bad because I'm like, I don't know what's going on with you, but I just hope that you're able to work with that, find some type of healing where it doesn't keep coming out this
Yeah.
way when you're in public, you're
Um,
with your friends, and all those things. So, well, everybody, that
yeah.
was Michael J. Menard that you heard from today on Grew with Portia. And that concludes our conversation for today. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease, everyone.